Well, welcome to the Post Sunday app. We're glad to have Kent Cloder with us, who preached yesterday. And Kent, it's just good to have you sitting next to me, buddy. I tell you.
I think it's good to be here.
So, you think it's good? I've got some hard questions I'm
Yeah,
going to drill you with
I'm excited about
here.
that. Yeah.
So,
Thanks, I think.
as you can tell, Kent and I are having a pretty good time together. I
We
consider him a dear friend, and I was really challenged. I think the illustration of the "I'm here" and making your presence known, I think it's going to stick with a lot of us for a long time. What you went through in Ephesians, especially chapter 2 about our identity, was just phenomenal. I did want to ask you a few questions, and feel free to chime in anything that you didn't get to in your sermons. But you use a lot of illustrations. You use some props, the tombstone and the bubbles and things like that. You said you've taught a class about that. Why do you think those are such an effective tool for communicating God's Word?
I struggle with understanding concepts myself, and I have learned to learn by thinking in pictures. And so when I think about concepts, I try and think about how I can picture them, because I remember pictures. And as I've thought about that concept, I started looking at the scriptures and thinking, if God knows us the way He does, since He created us and He knows everything about us, I want to think about how God Himself teaches us. And then I started looking at the amazing things He did to teach us, like 40 years in the wilderness, having manna come down from the heaven to teach us that Christ is the bread of life. And so, the ark teaching us that the pitch inside and outside of the ark is a picture of atonement. And light bulbs started to come off in my mind, thinking that illustrations and visual descriptions really convey in a way that the human mind remembers. So when I think of soap bubbles, and I reach out and have a soap bubble burst in my hand, I get what Solomon is saying, that there's nothing left of the glamour that you pursue, and you realize that you're pursuing something that is meaningless. So yesterday, just the concept of the message yesterday comes out of years of experience of watching people go for soap bubbles and then ending up with nothing, and life is just devastating. So I wanted people to really get it and remember it. And so I just know if you talk for 40 minutes, you'll be fortunate if they remember one phrase in 40 minutes. But if you act it out, show it, illustrate it, draw it, those are concepts that people will take with them.
Yeah. Well, there was a phrase that you mentioned that I wrote down so I wouldn't forget it. It was underneath your third point. So the 3 points: who are you? What is your purpose? And how will you respond, from the book of Ephesians? 3 questions that really we all have to wrestle with, whether we're believers, followers of Christ, or not. But after the third point, how will you respond, you give a definition of love. And I want you maybe to expound a little bit more on this. But the definition was, love is being others-focused and being involved in selfless giving for the eternal good of another person. Do you want to expound upon that?
Sure.
A little bit?
Well, I use that in the context of Ephesians 5, where the scriptures call us to imitate God and love like Christ did, who sacrificed. So our culture talks a lot about 5 love languages, and I've thought through that concept from Christ's perspective, and you think about the love languages of Christ, and He begins with self-denial. He leaves heaven, He's positioned with God, He comes to earth, self-denial, then He submits Himself to ungodly, imperfect leadership, beginning with His parents. His whole life is service, and then He ends up suffering and sacrificing. So self-denial, submission, service, suffering, and sacrifice are the love languages of Christ, that's what it means to imitate Him. So love like Him is other-focused. He came to save us. God loved and chose to demonstrate that love by giving us His Son. It's selfless. He left self in heaven, if you will, to His position, and came to earth. So that's selfless, other-focused, selfless giving. So that's where that definition comes from.
Yeah.
And he did
Really
it to
good.
save us eternally. And so if we're going to love like him in interactions with other people, I believe the ultimate question to ask is, how can I help them become worshipers and lovers of God so that they spend eternity with him?
Yeah.
Eternal focus.
That definition, I think, was very timely, too, in light of our ministry fair yesterday. The opportunity to sign up for care groups. And I think as the school year starts, typically people start to reconsider, should I be involved in a Sunday school class or other ministries, things like that. To help us to view those ministries and those care group opportunities not as, okay, what's good for me here, but how do I join a care group and think, I'm not just going to join it because it's good for me, although I think that's not bad to want good relationships out of a care group. But if I look at this person who's leading the care group, look at the people that are signing up, how can I serve these people? How can I be a blessing to these people? How can I be a blessing to these different ministries that are portrayed in the different tables? So I thought it dovetailed really well with what's going on just in the life of our church.
Yeah, very good. So. Well, I think the whole question is then, Ephesians 4 tells us as leaders that we are to equip the people in the church for the work of the ministry, and so that's the ultimate question. And as I do this other-focused, selfless giving for the eternal good of the other person, then my goal is I need to become equipped so that I can do that more effectively. And so that's what the church is about, is equipping people to do that.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. Well, I know you spent a lot of time prepping for this sermon, and God was really working through you.
Glory to God.
Yeah, definitely. So thanks for your sacrifice and time.
That was my joy.
The rest of your ministries don't slow down because you have a sermon going on. So so I appreciate your time. So
my joy.
Yeah. Well, thank you too for tuning into the Post Sunday app. We hope this video is a blessing to you, and have a great rest of your day.